It's the final round of the FIDE Grand Swiss 2025 and we have Anish Giri making his way to the board. He is on 7 out of 10 in the leaders pack along with Alireza Firuza, Matthias Bluebaum, Hans Niemann and Vincent Keimer. Today Anish is taking on Hans with the white pieces and his tiebreak isn't particularly the best, so he must push with the white pieces for a win. A draw might not be sufficient to get it to the top two spots and also make it to the candidates. Anish has played a very solid event here. He has been unbeaten. He has beaten Robert Hovhannissian, Grigory Oparin, Marc-Andrea Morizzi, Jordan Van Forest, and there you have Hans Niemann coming in, who is fresh off his victory against Pragnananda. So Hans would be high on confidence. Also, for him, this game is super important. This is what it all boils down to in professional chess, where you are able to fight for the candidate spot for the top prize of $90,000, a handshake, and off we go. Pawn to c4 by Anish Giri, going for the English opening. And Hans Niemann is thinking, what should he play? You have to also keep an eye on the other games, on how much they are trying to fight and so on. Knight comes out to f6. And Anish Giri comes in, plays knight to c3. Many different opportunities to play here. e6, c5, e5. He goes pawn to e5. And now Anish brings his other knight to f3, attacking the pawn on e5. Pushing the pawn is not a good idea as knight g5 attacks it again. So knight comes out to c6, defending it. And now pawn to e3 played. This is one of the moves that Anish likes to play when, trying for something more with the white pieces. Bishop b4. And one of the main ideas is like reversed Rosolimo, if you think about it, is to take on c3. And so white goes queen to c2 to defend the knight here. And many times the knight could jump into d5. And so before he does that, Hans takes the knight off. Bishop takes c3. And it may seem like this entire operation with bishop c3, queen c3 is not a big deal because, you're giving up your bishop for the knight. But the problem is that after queen c3, queen e7, white goes pawn to a3. And although white has the bishop pair here, black's development is excellent. Look at this. The bishop could come out, castles, rooks could get centralized. So Anish plays d4. And he's very much hoping for more stuff to get exchanged so that his bishops can get more free lines. E takes d4 by Hans. e4 also a possibility, but you jump into e5. So e takes d4. He takes back. Knight takes d4 here. And now knight takes d4, queen takes d4. I think Anish has got a position which is relatively good. c5. And I think in a must-win game, or you can say a game where he wants to keep pressing, it's definitely something where you don't have like already established equality. Queen h4. Bishop comes to e6 now. So he takes on d5. And now knight takes d5. You can take the queens here. Change the queens. But he goes bishop to b5 check first. Bishop comes back to d7. And now a question to Anish to take here. Keep the queens on board or to actually trade queens. He trades the queens. Queen takes e7. King takes, oh, he takes back with the knight. Knight takes on e7, and you can look at Anish's expressions. He feels like this is not the best way perhaps to play, as black. Bishop e2 comes back, and this is very Anish-esque. You know, you have the bishop pair and you're trying to press here. Nothing huge is happening. f3, I like this move, making space for the king here. Pawn to e4, bishop comes out. f6 by Hans, who's also making space for his king. And now Anish goes king to f2. What an interesting game this is turning out to be, because Arjun Erigaisi and Vincent Keimer are also fighting. Firuza and Bluebaum are also fighting. So it's fight on all boards. Rook to d1 played, attacking the bishop here. One of the small issues that white suffers from is the weakness of the b3 square, because the bishop can sit there and attack the rook. Anish goes pawn to h4. And now Hans plays pawn to b6. I think it's time to play e4. Yes, make square for your bishop here, or to come out to f4. Also you have bishop that can jump to a6. Knight comes to c6. And Anish calmly brings his bishop out. I'm wondering if rook d8 makes sense here, just to trade rooks. But I think somewhere Hans also has this thought that he has to win in order to qualify to the candidates. And so he's also trying to be a bit ambitious. Rook to d6 played, trying to double the rooks on the d file. Rook h e8, defending the bishop here. Goes pawn to g4. It does feel like Anish is the one making more progress than Hans. Hans comes back, knight to b7. And now you can come back all the way to d1 or d2. He goes to d2. And the knight jumps back again, threatening a fork here. And Anish goes rook d6. For the second time, he's just being careful there. No repetition there. And Hans comes back. I believe Hans is okay with a draw perhaps. Not so sure. Anyway, they could be very well just trying to mislead each other. That's what. Anish goes back rook d1 and he says, let's fight on. Let's fight on. The knight goes back to a5. And now rook a to c1 played. One of the ideas for white is to push b4. King e7 played. And now Anish has many opportunities. b4, g5. He plays bishop to a6. Very good move. Rook comes to d8. And maybe now take on d8, and b4. Yes, rook takes on d8. Rook takes on d8. And he pushes his pawn to b4. Excellent play by Anish Giri here. Knight jumps into b3. And the rook comes up. Now in this position, Hans has a big question what to do. He goes rook d6, but this does feel like a mistake, because after b takes c5, now if knight takes c5, I could very well take and go into this endgame. But he takes back with the pawn, and Anish, who has 16 minutes on the clock to work this out, Hans has 11, can go rook takes b3, bishop takes b3, and bishop takes c5. He takes it. Bishop takes c5. And now the question is, what do you do as black? Do you go h6 just to stop this g5 ideas? But then there is bishop c8 and the king is locked up. Man, so king d7, trying to at least come out of the pin. Now he takes, king takes, and a very important move for Anish now is to play g5. Yes, he plays it so that black cannot go h6 easily. Wow. Man, Anish is on a roll here. He's played this beautifully. It's actually deep, this endgame. Hans goes back. Now Anish brings his king up, king e3, king to c5 played. Moves up, king to f4. King comes up to d4. And now pawn takes pawn, taken, pawn takes pawn. And the way in which white can win now is to somehow get the bishop, like for example, get the bishop from here somewhere like this to g4, and then the bishop has to move and king f5, king f6. It goes bishop d7 because the black king is kind of locked. The moment it moves, e5 takes and f pawn starts to roll. So bishop e2, and he's coming, I guess, to this idea. King c, he moves his king, but now can't we just push e5? And this is over. This is over. e5 played. Hans Niemann comes to d5. And he takes the pawn. Oh, waits here. Takes on f6. King goes back to e6, trying to recover the pawn, but now it's a healthy pawn. And notice how Anish has put all his pawns on the opposite color of his bishop and his opponent's bishop. f7 played, and now king comes into e5. The pawn's going to be pushed forward. Check here, and Anish is going to win this game. It's completely winning. Hans Niemann knows that the writing is on the wall. And while this game is going on, Firuza Bluebaum on the board number 1 has ended in a draw. Anish tries to look there. A win here would definitely help him get a candidate spot. Whether he'll finish first or not depends on Keimer versus Arjun. And Hans Niemann is not at all happy with how this game has gone. It was kind of a one-way struggle. Somehow from the opening he resigns there. Anish Giri wins the game, and a smile on his face. He makes it to the candidates. The game between Arjun and Vincent also ended in a draw eventually, which meant that Anish has become the champion of the tournament as well with half a point. What a big success for Anish Giri. Maybe one of the biggest ones in his chess career, making it to the candidates through a qualification route, because usually the 2 times he played was through the rating spot, but this one would be special for him. And yeah, a big win for Anish. He also gains significant rating points, 13 ELO points, which helps him reach 2759. We have the FIDE president coming in, Arkady Dvorkovich, and Anish now will have to prepare for the candidates 2026, where we already have Fabiano Caruana, who's qualified. We will also have Matthias Bluebaum from this tournament, and we also have Prague, who's doing well on the FIDE circuit, Hikaru, who might get through the rating spot. And I like how they are so interestedly analyzing the end game. And yeah, well, it's always nice to see the FIDE president also interested in the game and in the analysis. And kudos to Anish Giri, a huge win. And this is the most important game from the FIDE Grand Swiss 2025. There's one moment in the game that I want to bring to your attention. In this position, Anish took the pawn b takes c5 and Hans took back with the pawn. And then Anish took here and bishop takes c5, pinning the rook. Now the thing is, we did mention how important the move g5 is, because in the game, if you see, after king d7 takes, Anish very cleverly made the move g5, which gave him a winning advantage. So my question is, could black have gone instead of king d7 h6 here? The problem then is that white plays the move bishop c8, taking away both these squares, and once you do this, black is all tied up. There's no way to get out and it's completely winning. So then the idea comes to your mind is, could we have taken back on c5 with the knight? Now by no means is Anish forced to take on c5. He can play bishop b5 and he's better. But imagine that in this case he gets tempted by rook takes c5, pawn takes, bishop takes c5, and now this very important move h6. I wonder if this would be good enough for Anish to win or not. It's a big question to me. It requires deep analysis. Bishop b5 trying to take away this square. Bishop moves away so that the king can come up, and there is no bishop c8 like in the game. So that's the reason why I believe that knight takes c5 back here would have been a much stronger defense. The moment Hans took here, Anish was super alert, took on b3 and went on to win the game.